Well, we are at the ATALM conference, and this is such a pleasure to run into Mary Anne
It's great to be here.
and just talk about her work and her dedication to educate tribal college librarians.
Okay, so thank you for your interest in tribal college librarians. I am at Montana State University in Bozeman, Montana, and in 1990, a colleague of mine who is now retired, Kathy Kaya, started the Tribal College Librarians Institute as Montana tribal college librarians reached out to her for help learning how to use email, this is pre your time, maybe you know about FTP and Gopher and the things we used to have to do pre World Wide Web, pre internet, to actually be able to email and transfer files to each other. And then Kathy arranged on-campus workshops for Montana librarians at tribal colleges, and then the word got out, and regionally, Washington State, other states, and then finally across the country, and Canadian librarians serving Indigenous college students and even Maoris have been coming to what became the Tribal College Librarians Institute. So our first official year was 1990, and we have now celebrated our 32nd gathering this past June of 2022, and we've met 30 years in person, 2 years online because of the COVID pandemic, but we still had great programming, and we have been very fortunate to be supported by funding largely from IMLS, the Institute of Museum and Library Services, and EBSCO Corporation. We've had funding from the National Agriculture Library, the National Museum of the American Indian, and my library, Montana State University Library, and the Native American Studies Department at Montana State University. So 32 years, and we are still going strong. We call it TCLI for short, has evolved from a really, it's always been in response to the needs of tribal college librarians. It's driven by needs of tribal college librarians for the various programming they need, and we always build in cultural elements as well, cultural programming, from learning about Navajo code talkers to learning about different practices and issues going on with various tribes across the U.S., across the globe, but more and more as more and more of the tribal college librarians themselves are getting Native American enhancement grants from the Institute of Museum and Library Services, IMLS. They are becoming the presenters, so they are participants and they're presenters. They are sharing their best practices, their challenges, their projects, and really educating each other. We have an annual, what we call burning issues conversation, or 2 or 3 of those, where it's just an opportunity for the tribal college librarians in a really niche sector of librarianship to say, how are you handling such and such? How are you dealing with such and such? So burning issues, the power of the Institute is really being face-to-face. Yes, we had a valuable experience during the 2 years that we were online during the pandemic, but there's so much power in coming into the same room together, being face-to-face, the sidebar conversations during breaks and during meals. We have multiple group meals and whatnot. That's really where a lot of the work happens, and ideas come for future programming. We also get ideas for future programming in the annual evaluations. What would you like to see on the program next year? What did you like about this year? And so on. So it's really driven by the tribal college librarians. And as a non-Native person, I rely heavily on a Native advisory group. So Dr. Sandy Littletree at the University of Washington iSchool has been on a paid advisor on this latest iteration of an IMLS grant, as has Joy Bridwell, who is Cree, and she's a library director at the Stonechild College, and Erin LaFramboise, who is Blackfeet, and she's the library director at Medicine Spring College at Blackfeet Community College. And I'm going to take a breath and let you ask any questions you might have.
No, this is so cool. Well, I just, what are the burning issues at the moment? What's hot?
What really came out of this year was more and more of the librarians are looking at these collections of archival materials, maybe language tapes of interviews of elders, and recognizing the need to digitize not only maybe technology that's soon becoming outdated, but also paper materials to make materials available to tribal members wherever they are. Although keep in mind that tribal college libraries are also typically the public library or community library in their area. They may be the only library available for maybe over 100 miles, and so they're serving as community libraries and serving academic needs, but also maybe after school programming, summer reading programs, intergenerational programs where they're having teaching arts such as a ribbon skirt making class or basket making classes. I've heard many different examples of integrating the culture into the community, bringing the elders together with the young people to teach them and pass them on. Cree language, that's really strong programming at Stonechild College, right in the heart of Montana, for example. So, and burning issues, they just bring up, like, how are you dealing with this? How are you dealing with maybe people who just want to camp out in the library all day and monopolize a computer when you don't have enough computers to serve every person's need because they are in geographically isolated places. Some people on some reservation communities don't even have running water, much less internet access. So the college is a place to come, and the library is a place to come to use a free public computer, maybe check out a computer, check out a Wi-Fi hotspot to take home. But there's probably more demand than there is the technology available. That's why the tribal college librarians are continually writing grants themselves to improve technology, improve programming, and whatnot. I've heard stories from multiple tribal college librarians, especially during the pandemic, where students were in online courses. They didn't have internet at home, and so they were sitting in the library parking lot outside the closed library. They're in their cars, working regardless of temperature. I'm in Montana, but I've also heard of this in Arizona. In the wintertime, all year round, working on their computers or even on their phones if they don't have a laptop. Students are writing complete essays, research papers on their phones. So a real digital divide is apparent in Indian country, and I think there's more and more efforts across the country to get more bandwidth into isolated areas, but we're also looking at profit-driven companies that it has to be, there has to be a profit for internet companies to bring in technology, bring in fiber optics, bring in bandwidth, but there's more and more grants, more and more associations, companies that, or I should say foundations that want to do good and improve access for all to cut down on some of the digital divide.
Yeah, that's problem been what for the past probably 30 years, and it's still a big problem. Well, what about the logistics? How many people come? Where do they live? For how long does the institute? Perhaps some of our students might want to come.
Yeah, certainly. We do welcome students, and we have had SJSU students in the past. We have written it into IMLS grants to have it as a teaching opportunity to bring in students, a mentoring opportunity, and perhaps interest them in tribal college librarianship themselves, whether native or non-native. You don't have to be native to be a tribal college librarian. Probably about half and half are native, half are not. But it's also an opportunity for current or recently graduated library science students to come and share trends in the field, projects they've been working on. So it's a real two-way educational experience. And we've been doing it over the years. We've had Knowledge River students from the University of Arizona come. We've had Dr. Lorene Roy's students from the University of Texas at Austin School of Information come and tell us about things they're working on. We had at least one of Lorene's students come this past summer and talk about some of the tutorials she's been putting together. And so it's really a great melding of future library practitioners and current library practitioners, and it's just a good two-way educational opportunity.
Totally. How many people? Is it 30? You started with a smaller number.
It's a very small group. I think part of the attraction is the intimate nature. We typically have 35 to 55 people, usually around 43 to 45. Anybody who presents at TCLI is invited to stay for the whole week, and often presenters do come and stay for the whole week, and it's really advantageous for them, especially if they are in government entities where it's their one of their mission statements, one of their goals is to serve historically underserved populations, such as we've had almost yearly participation for probably at least 20 years from the National Networks of Library of Medicine coming in and talking about National Library of Medicine resources and how to use them and potential funding opportunities. We've had the government publication, government printing office, GPO come in, and a lot of the same people from these federal entities coming in, and they've become what we call honorary TCLI members. Because they're seen as allies. The tribal college librarians recognize that they want to help as much as they can within the scope of their job, and they are genuinely interested.
That's wonderful. One thing that we've been talking about tribal people library education is that a lot of time in a library, public library, college library, the person who works there doesn't have MLIS degree. So what about people who come to your institute?
A number of the tribal college librarians don't have the official MLIS degree. As a result of getting engaged in and embraced by the TCLI community, a number of the tribal college librarians have stayed in their positions when they've just been maybe recruited from another office in the college, in the tribal college, to come, we need somebody to run the library. And TCLI is such a welcoming, supportive community, and it's become the conference of choice for many of the tribal college librarians that a number of them have, as a result of the TCLI experience year after year and the listserv throughout the year, where people share stories and share struggles and engage in that group problem solving. As a result of that, many of them over the years have gone on to get their library science master's degrees and stay in their positions. So anecdotally, I have names. I don't have all the numbers of how many people have gotten library science degrees as a result of TCLI. That's on my to-do list. But it is a warm, welcoming community. And I've had more than one person tell me they had thought about leaving their job, but they stayed in their job because of the supportive community of TCLI. A lot of them, especially if they're not tribal members, face just tribal bureaucracy, just the typical government bureaucracy or hierarchical issues that you could face in potentially any type of library, if depending on the personalities involved.
Yeah, totally. But the work in the tribal college libraries must be really difficult because it actually serves many roles. It's not just college library.
It's often one person, or maybe if they're lucky enough to have funding for an assistant, or maybe they get a grant to hire somebody to run the summer reading program. But yes, the tribal college librarians are on a shoestring budget, and they have to do everything. They have to be the circulation person, they have to be the cataloger, they have to be the grant writer. They are often called upon to keep the library open later hours for special events and so on. So librarians really, I think you hear about that everywhere, but especially tribal college librarians are often expected to really do a whole lot more than maybe other librarians in similar positions, but not at tribal colleges.
But thanks to your institute, people move on and do a great work.
Yes, they
Thank
do.
you.
They do great work.
Thank you, Mary Anne.
It's been my pleasure, and I'm so happy to be able to talk to a class. I hope any of you feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. And I'm currently working on 2 grants right now. I'm trying to get the next IMLS grant. If I get it, I'll have funding starting August 1st for TCLI 2024, 25, and 26. Meanwhile, my IMLS grant is running out, so now I'm working with the Mellon Foundation to get one-time funding to fund TCLI 2023, which the funding, most of it goes to paying transportation, paying dorm rooms, hotel rooms, a couple of speaker honoraria to just make TCLI happen. We don't have quite the conference fees we used to have because we get to use our brand new American Indian Hall for free instead of having to rent rooms in our student union building. But if you want to see a beautiful brand new American Indian Hall, look up Montana State University American Indian Hall, and even on YouTube you'll see the grand opening ceremony and a tour of the building, or just on Google you'll find lots of images of a beautiful new building opened October of 2021.
Thank you, Mary Anne.
Thank you.